Hi. Hi. Hey. Let's see if this video's showing on my channel. Hi. How are you? Yeah, live now. John Birmingham. Please help. Danica DeCosto, wannabe Marilyn Monroe, took my children. Hi. Okay. Here's what happened. Um, I've cried about 2,000 times. What's that sound? I've cried about 2,000 times since they've been gone. She took them there in May of 2017. I used to only cry like once every few years if it was something like really difficult and it was really important. And it usually, if I actually cried, it was something that would almost, it would not totally, but it would change my life. It would change my life if I actually cried about something. It was like every few years, maybe if that, I don't know. When I was in California, I didn't cry at all. I think from 1997 to 2005, I don't remember crying. Oh, no, I did cry. I cried in 2002 or 2003 when I was alone in an apartment out there waiting for Danica, hoping to be with her, and she was in Texas with her dad. She went to take care of her little sisters, and then their mom ended up killing herself while she was there in a hotel room. It was her stepsister, well, her half sisters, her stepsisters, half sisters, stepsisters, something like that. And they're her dad's kids from his second marriage or something. So she ended up killing herself in a hotel room, and then I had to fly there. I had already had a plane flight to fly there about 2 weeks after she killed herself, I think, or right after she killed herself, like 2 weeks after she killed herself. And it was so scary there, and I got so worried about how they were, and they kept saying how crazy she was and stuff, and like, because she was kind of crazy, and she shot a gun through the roof of the house inside, and she was high on all these prescription medicine, and she ended up going to a hotel room and killed herself. So she was kind of crazy, but I don't know why they were bad talking her after she died. But some of them, like Danica, chipped in. Danica was in on it too. And then so I went back to California, and she still wasn't. She didn't move back, or I moved back with her. But when I was alone in California, waiting for her to move back, I cried because I missed her. And then, but I was so traumatized by that, going to see their family after Danica's dad's second wife killed herself, that I just went. I just like nothing went wrong with me, but I started like really worrying and getting panic attacks and anxiety. I felt chest pains in my heart. I thought I was going to die of a heart attack when I was like 24. I was 24 in grad school. I think I was 24. It was the year 2002. I was 25. Uh, or 25. I was 25, I think, or 24. I don't know. And so um, so I started having chest pains. I was so worried because I had to commute 6 hours a day in a car. 6 hours. Can you imagine in traffic 6 hours going up to LA from my film school and back down, and then an hour to Long Beach to stay in my friend's little one-bedroom apartment that he shared with his wife. And I was trying to live there for $200 a month, and I was trying to make it at grad school, one of the best film schools there was, and it was hard to do, and it was too much for me to do. So I started having that, and because I was already stressed out about that, and then I went to see them and their family after his wife killed herself. I showed up right after, and it was like terrifying to me and scary a little bit. And I thought her dad kept calling me, he's a crazy man, every time he coughed, but he'd pretend like he just coughed or something. And I thought he'd go, and it sounded like, he's a crazy man. Crazy man. He's a crazy man. And it sounded like, I was like, why is he calling me a crazy man? And there was, then after that, no one had ever called me crazy in my life. And then after that, Danica kept saying, you're crazy and stuff. And she made me go on medicine. So I had to start taking medicine, and I was on the medicine. Now I've been on it for 20 years. 20 years she had me on medicine. No one ever told me that I needed medicine before that. No one ever told me I needed medicine. No one ever said I was crazy before that. Um, Insinuating that I needed to be on medicine or put into mental institution or anything like that. It meant something different way years ago. If somebody called somebody crazy, it didn't mean that you had something wrong with you. It was like something kind of cool. But like they sang about it in songs or whatever. And so but she was the first one to say I was crazy, and she made me take medicine because her dad was a doctor. So I had to take medicine. But maybe I might have to sell this house and then get to be, I might have to actually sell my home. It's not some really rich mansion of a place. I don't know if you really understand. This is like a hippie, special, beautiful, godly, good place. It wasn't the size of a house. That just meant more labor, more hard labor, more work, of many years of having to do the work on this. Because my dad would always, he didn't always say this, but we knew, this is one of the things we knew. I knew a lot of things about real estate having to work for him, and he got like most of the money. But growing up, like when I worked for him, but I have some money now in the house, but it's just because I'm older and I had to really do the work. If you work hard, you don't have to be mean at all. You can be kind or whatever, but the actual work will make money. Like if you work the equivalent of about 2 full-time jobs a day, like at that stuff that, I don't want to feel old as shit, but at one time my body looked older, and it got younger looking when I didn't have to do it anymore. But at one time I was working at hard labor 12 hours a day for a year about. And sometimes I'd hire other people, and it was so stressful hiring other people because I got in an argument with my parents, and I had 1 or 2 houses left, and I didn't want to work for them anymore. They were pissed that I was partying and not working that hard, and so I had to start working. This was back when I thought that stuff was cool, but I know it's wrong if you fornicate or do anything like that. So I don't even party. I've been in my house by myself. So for many years, it has been more than 10 years alone, hoping to be with my wife and kids. There have been times when I messed up and gave another woman a chance a little bit. I thought maybe I could be married to him, but it was mostly, it's more than 10 years alone, suffering in my home, in my house, mostly alone, either working on my own homes, or when I was younger, I worked for my dad out there and did videos and films and stuff. But so there's so much more to this, but there's so much more. I don't even know what I look like from that angle. I don't even have any idea what this looks like or the lighting looks like. I just happen to have the camera right here. It's a low angle shit filming up on my face, so I don't know what my neck looks like or what. But so I guess it'll look okay or whatever. So the thing is that so with the medicine, there was a time in January. I don't know if this is wrong but I don't know if this is going to kill me. I think it's supposed to kill my body because it's so difficult. And it wasn't just crying 2,000 times. That wasn't usually agonizing, suffering crying. That was sometimes like something I finally got to feel okay about. So that was like something that was like usually not even allowed to cry, and I had read something about that in Inga's book, Who Made This Neighborhood, and it actually happened to me, and it was not good feeling. And it's been many years of suffering. Suffering is about the best word, but at times even a year or two ago or 2 years ago, I wasn't even really allowed to call it suffering, but it felt so bad and alone. It felt like alone in my chest, so bad that it started giving me pains in my chest, and so bad that I don't want to talk about the physical things that it had on my that I thought was wrong with my body, but I got checked for cancer and I didn't have cancer. I've gotten checked once for cancer. Another time I was so worried about seeing a doctor or a hospital that I bought some stuff to like I don't want to say, but these little mirrors and stuff, and so I could tell if I had cancer or not. So I checked myself another time, I didn't have cancer. I checked myself at the dentist another time, I didn't have cancer. I was worried because I had these pains in my body and stuff, and from being so alone for so long. So I've been checked for cancer 3 times at least. One of the times was by myself. I bought the little tools and stuff because I was afraid to go to the hospital or see a doctor. At least 1 time at the dentist, or 2 times at the dentist for oral cancer. I was worried about that. I was worried about cancer because it hurt or something in my body, and I don't want to say what. And then another time, I worked on my house another 8 months in a row, 12 hours a day, about 12 hours a day, every day for 8 months inside this house, where I was breathing the smells of the paint and stuff, and I had heavy coats on to save money in the electricity. It's a big house, it's expensive to heat, this is just real stuff that happened. I probably cried about before, wanted to die 3,000 times. 3,000 times I chose with all my heart and everything I had to die. I don't want to live. And like, imagine this entire brain being blown off 100 or 200 times with all my might and all my heart, and it didn't happen in real life because Jesus protected me from it. When it came down to going to a gun shop, I can't even go in a gun shop. Jesus protected me from it. It's great. And then it became that I was crazy, and I didn't even know what I was talking about, and it wasn't even in my heart. It wasn't even in my heart. So I was stupid and I didn't know what I was talking about, and I was crazy. So then I had to go to a hospital. And then I had to go to a hospital for 2.5 weeks. When I went to Texas, I was so worried about seeing them in Texas. I had to go to a hospital for 2.5 weeks because they caused all of my suffering by keeping the kids there that long. Because I don't mean to blame them, but I don't want to sell my house, and I don't know how else to stay in Texas long enough other than to rent my house. Maybe I can rent my house, because I was just there for 6 weeks and they only let me see the kids 5 days. I think 5 days. And 2.5 weeks of it, they made me go to a hospital. They said I was preaching the gospel of Jesus too much. It's true. They didn't say it. My mom did. She was there at the same time, and my mom said that I was too worried about them. It had been 3 years since I was there because of COVID-19. I was worried about getting something with COVID-19 for some other problem that had affected me, working long hours in this house, but I don't have to anymore. I just won't do it anymore. I'm to the point where, I try to not let the stuff bother me that much. And I think I've been through the most difficult stuff in my life I've ever been through. It's supposedly not going to be that bad for me, because at one time I could see hell rising from the surface, and very, very real fear of what they would do to me if I didn't do what they said at the end of 2014. That was the worst, when I went off my medicine for the first time. And then it happened again in 2017, and I said, I can't just try to get as much money as I can, and so the zombies don't take me down to their Illuminati hell. Like, I thought that this stuff was real. It was like this whole thing that I thought was real that I must have written in my thoughts, and it wasn't real. Like, I thought there's just cringy stuff I can't even talk about, because it's not even glamorous or good to talk about. It's just bad stuff, like hell crap, and I don't like it. So it was like I could actually see it. I saw people pulled up on crosses. I don't want to mimic how they did it, the type of meanness that they did, but it was way worse than on Earth, and than anything you've ever seen on Earth. It was really bad, and the every moment some new and more horrifying, terrifying thing. So bad, like way worse than I know way worse than anything can be done on Earth, and they kept showing me it and how bad it could be, and then I didn't know how to act, because I didn't have God and Jesus as much. I didn't read the Bible. I didn't read the New Testament, which is about Jesus. That's what it's about, is a New Testament and some of the Old Testament. And So I didn't understand what it was all about. So I was like, I thought I was supposed to be Jesus and it was the end of the world, and I thought I had to suffer like Jesus. So I tried that, and then I got things wrong because I can never be Jesus. Jesus was without sin. I can be Jesus like. I can be like Jesus, and we're supposed to be like Jesus. So it was a miracle that I did my best. But then I got things wrong, and I was doing it wrong because I didn't know what the Bible said. So when I could see hell, it got scary, and I started acting like I was like the one of like a really horrific hell person that would like get as much money, stuff, genetic manipulation of my body, live as long as I possibly could, so they couldn't take me down to those facilities. Because I thought once somebody died, then that's when the creatures who live among us, who were like so terrifying, they could have been somewhere, they could have been like right behind me or something right then. I thought, and I on my phone, I can't even begin to talk about it. It was so I got tricked because I was put on that medicine she had me on, and it wasn't her fault. It wasn't her fault. The devil and the demons tricked me into thinking, I don't know why, but I tried to quit the medicine, and none of the doctors or psychiatrists told me that if you quit the medicine, I weaned off it for 6 months. I didn't want to take it. I was afraid. I thought it was big government stuff. I was afraid of it. And I wanted to just not rely on medicine and get away from society, and not have to, take medicine or see doctors and get healthy enough to where I wouldn't have to rely on them. But sometimes, I know we need them. I know doctors are there to help us. I know doctors are good, but it was a little scary to me somehow, and I didn't want to take the medicine. And so I tried to quit the medicine, and no psychiatrist prepared me for what happened. I was barely able to sleep for like 2 weeks. And it was because I was on that medicine. She wouldn't help. And if my wife was there with me, but because we got a divorce, then she would have said, "You're not getting enough sleep." I didn't even realize I wasn't getting enough sleep because I also had no appetite at all. So I was losing weight. So I thought, hey, this is cool. I'm looking better. I'm getting in good shape. But I was sleeping like 1 hour a night or half an hour a night sometimes, or three hours a night at first. And then it got down to half an hour. I could barely sleep, half an hour a night. And I thought, hey, I'm skinny or something like that. I thought I was skinny. I thought I was skinny. So it was like, I thought it was good because I was getting in better shape, and it didn't bother me that I was not getting as much sleep I thought. But then, after about 2 weeks of barely getting any sleep, I could see these shows of hell, like put on for me to show me what would happen. And the lights shut off, like really mean. I can't even act like them, but it's bad. It was bad. And so then that happened a second time in 2017. I was like, instead of trying to get as much money as I can so they don't take me down to those facilities where they keep people alive with genetic manipulation for hundreds of years for torment, these horrific things kept in little cages way underground, you can barely move, and the rape and stuff, and they have these like cow human hybrid creatures born out of your ass from like rape of beasts and animals and demons, and they try to bring in family members, and they're beating your arms and legs, and it was like really horrible. It was like, and you kept having to live, and they would keep you alive way more than a regular person. So the horrors that they would hurt you with were so bad, and they were brilliant because they were demons, really in a bad way, not like a brilliant good human, but like a 20,000 IQ or something. So it was so fast, every little moment, that was way faster than anything you could ever have control on, and it felt so unimaginably bad that they show me these things that they would do to me if I didn't do what they said. So I thought I had to be big and mean to avoid 400 years in those facilities, and I was pretty afraid. So I acted big and mean, tried to get as much money as I could, and acted their stupid ass ways that I never believed in, and I had to act really mean about it, and it sucked. And then I didn't have to do it. I was tricked into it because I didn't have the Bible. But with God and Jesus, see, the second time it happened, the same stuff happened to me. They're showing me the hell stuff because I hadn't slept. And I said, I'll just give my body to God and Jesus. I didn't know what it meant, but I was going to be as kind as I could and face my worst fears so no one would get hurt. So I wouldn't push their big evil political agenda stuff. and I was willing to suffer in the most imaginable, unimaginable, horrific ways that they were going to do that they showed me. I was willing to suffer through all of it, and I thought I had to be like Jesus. I had to face my fears, go to jail, get cancer, AIDS, stuff like that, but way, way worse with the rape that they could do down in hell. It would start with stuff like that, like jail, AIDS, cancer. Then they'd keep you alive with shit, and then it would go to prison. Then they'd try to make you break out or something, which I was afraid of. I was afraid of breaking the law or doing anything against the law, because I became a more kind person, like that didn't do stupid little things when I was a kid anymore. Like around, like when I met my wife, and we were very good. We drive slow and safe, and I don't think I should have had any of that stuff happen to me. So the worst they really did to me was put me in a hospital, a mental hospital. But I went across the entire South suffering like Jesus, to be as kind to any of the people I may have hurt at a big political level, as kind and beautiful as I could, willing to suffer, be a minority, break the law if Jesus wanted me to. But I found, hey, I can't even break the law. I couldn't even break the law, because I was so kind and good. And the law nowadays is pretty kind and good. So the police officers were kind of nice to me, and I tried to do whatever God wanted me and Jesus wanted me to do, whatever God wanted me to do. And so they just put me in a mental hospital, and so then I found out, because Danica wasn't helping me quit the medicine, and she wanted me to stay on the medicine. Then I found out how to quit the medicine a little bit better on my own. But that saved, maybe the entire country. I think Jesus, and I didn't do it. Jesus did it. I didn't get the glory for it. I was just doing my own way of being as godly and Jesus-like as I could to make up for all the sin I did, willing to suffer in these really, really bad, scary ways to do what was right and to do what was good. And so I went across, I don't know, and and so I went across the country, and then I was kind to everybody. And then there's no more worry about political stuff. Anytime I went out, and I felt this love of black people that I don't feel anymore as much. But it was so special that I preferred to be around black people and minorities than white people if I didn't know them. Unless they were my family. Of course, my kids I love the most, and Danica I love the most, and God and Jesus. God and Jesus you're supposed to love the most. And then years after that, I read the Bible, and it was like, wow, this is really true. And I realized what's really true. I look like shit right now, but that's part of the truth I'm supposed to be doing for God and Jesus. I'm aware that this right here doesn't look that great. And also, I look like my arm was really strong or some shit. That was a mistake. I was supposed to look like I have small arms, doesn't matter, or, be out of shape or some stupid thing like that. And that's how I'm really supposed to be. But it's hard to intentionally let that stuff go and, give your body and soul to Jesus. And this might be a fat tit down here, it might be like really fat or something way further down than, as long as you're not in hell. That's the really terrifying stuff. And this is very real. It's, it's very real. I'm not, this is just how it is, and, heaven's really real, but God and Jesus are really real. They're really good and beautiful and good, and we're supposed to be childlike to get into heaven. But obviously I'm a man, and a woman is a woman, and I'm not equal to, women and men are created equal. We're created the same. A man is no better than a woman. But God is different, because there's nothing bad about him. There's nothing bad about him. He's really, really good. So if there's anyone on earth to trust, we can trust God with everything, and it'll be okay. It's like it says in the Bible, it won't be that bad. It won't be that bad, and it'll be okay. And you can, if you trust anyone else the same as God, as much as God, you'd end up, who the frick knows? You're supposed to honor your parents, of course. You, as a child, you honor your parents first, and you may, as a child, they may not understand the concept of God as much, because the more you read and understand what the New Testament says and what the stuff in the Bible says, uh, that's what's really important. Is the Bible. Oh, it'd be so awesome if I got to die. It'd be like, I don't know if you know or not, but it's very difficult. I don't know how I'm gonna get to my kids, but I'm not planning to kill myself. But this stuff doesn't matter. Like, I might as well be a country redneck or something like that. From, I'm from here, and my parents are Yankees, Italian or whatever. I'm Italian, and I don't know. That stuff doesn't matter. What matters is God and Jesus. Well, what's the best is God and Jesus. So I was trying to get to my kids, and I turned on music, and it's like I haven't been able to feel okay. And uh, the last time I went there, I was taken away. I was put in a hospital for 2.5 weeks. I was put in a hospital for 2.5 weeks. So it was scary. And I had said this mean ass shit with all my might a little bit. Like, I hate Texas. Why'd they take my kids there? They had them there for 3 years. And then I'd cry and suffer and want to die. And it was so bad feeling for too long. And I started being a little bit mean. I hate Texas, I said. Or one time I said I hated Texas, but I don't hate Texas. And then, so when I showed up, it was like they were pissed. And they put me in a hospital for 2.5 weeks for the mean shit I had said. But then when they let me out, I started being nice and getting along with them and stuff, and it was okay. But I had to be in a place where they locked me inside for 2.5 weeks and took my belongings away on a cheap, poor little bed with my socks on. And it wasn't the most comfortable, but my body didn't get hurt. It was okay. And they deprived me of food a little bit. It was the Holy Spirit. I barely got to eat, but it wasn't. They didn't do it. They didn't really do it intentionally. It was just that you had to ask if you wanted like one little 100-calorie snack of food. And it was you couldn't lift weights. The most I could do was maybe some push-ups here and there, but it felt wrong. And I wasn't able to get much food, and I lost about 20 pounds in 2.5 weeks. And so then and then when I got out, I went to the hospital. Didn't go to the hospital. Then when I got out of the hospital, that was a hospital. And when I got out of there, I went to the hotel. And then the only food that I had access to that I could afford at the hotel was ice cream. And I was supposed to, because I had eaten mostly protein and stuff like lifting weights and trying to be in shape or something when I was at home, and keto, and high fat, high protein, low carbs. You probably have lower body fat than me, maybe, I don't know, but I had done that a little too much and it wasn't appropriate. So I was supposed to eat ice cream and pizza and stuff like that and carbs, but it had some protein too. I noticed that even the ice cream had some protein, so I gained back like about 10 pounds in 2 weeks. And I still looked okay because I had lost 20 pounds, but it was just so that was almost no significance at all. But there was some significance. I got to still look okay enough for my wife that maybe she'd, or if she's my wife, or I don't know. So I've been worried that I did so much God's work there. I kept having to go out. I get the feeling, you have to go out now. You have to go out now, and I'd have to go out no matter how I felt, and risk going to jail or being taken away, or I'd have to be there for them, preaching the gospel of Jesus to them in the front of their house, and trying to get them to find God. And they found God in Jesus now, but they preaching the gospel to them. But she wasn't, she was like almost a non-believer kind of. And so, but she started saying, praise Jesus, praise God, when I was saying it. So it was a miracle. It was a miracle that she said that stuff. And she was raised on God and Jesus, so she remembered. But it was so much God's work, and it was so awful. And I almost gave up with what I had to go through. And then I imagined that Jesus was protecting her in hell, and so she wouldn't be hurt if she I fucked up almost the whole entire thing by the end of it. And I imagine Jesus was in hell. I almost gave up on her life and soul, and then Jesus was there protecting her through hell, because I had to go through something that was seeing hell, like seeing hell. And I know Jesus went to hell, and if people experience going to hell, Jesus, that you ask Jesus to protect you and it'll be okay. So by a miracle that was okay. And then I was worried for 2 months about hell, about hell, and I've had these tormented faces that were like out of hell that I had to make in the dark, and it was just. And then by a miracle that went away. And that was okay again. And it's been working at that stuff. It's been working at that stuff so relentlessly that even today I wanted to kill myself. Yesterday I wanted to kill myself. The day before I wanted to kill myself. But I won't. I don't have plans to kill myself. I don't have plans to kill myself. I'm never gonna do it. Probably. I'm never gonna do it. Because it's too violent. I can't imagine even walking into a gun shop right now. I just, the smell of it is like a liquor store or something, like a hospital of liquor, like the federal government is involved with it and stuff. And like, if because it's dangerous, so they want to kind of like act like, you better get this right. So even driving up to a gun shop, they're watching me, and I knew they knew, and I had to drive away. So I've done that 40 times. I've tried to do that. When I was younger, waiting for them, I tried to kill myself about 40 times. Can you imagine trying to kill yourself almost 40 times? It hasn't. But when it came down to it, I was like, I can't hurt my body. I don't want to. I wouldn't want to hurt my actual body. Like I wouldn't want to hurt my body. Like and I saw an image. It's just horrifying what it might do to you if you live too, and where would you go if you died? And then I was so sad for about 2 years that if I killed myself, my kids would die. I was almost for sure both sons would kill themselves, and the baby would die of cancer. And then I got to where I was like, at least they'd make it to heaven, and I was pretty sure I was just going to kill myself. And then I just couldn't do the work anymore. So exhaustive trying to get them back and help them to be okay, and thinking about them every day. And my communication was limited to communicating with them through the walls 1,000 miles, and trying to think. I ended up hearing their voices every day, because they were taken away from me for so long that I started to hear their voices after them being there for about 3 years. So it's been 5.5 years now. So that sucked. And then it's still, I hope that goes away, because anyway, but I did get to, so I was going to say she broke the law and took them away, but it's been awful. It's been the worst. It's been the, well, not the worst, it's good. I'm doing God's work. It has not been easy, and it's not really the way I want to be alive anymore. So but if I sell this house, it's almost maybe ruined or something, because I don't know what I'd do out there. This is my favorite places. We're going to be a happy family. I worked so hard in this house hoping that they'd get to move here and be at this house. So I don't know if you understand how many different things there are to consider, that it's like it's a relentless effort. It's a relentless effort. So I've given up and wanted to die like 3,000 times. I've looked up pretty much every way to kill yourself. You can't slit your wrists. You can't slit your wrists because you'd have to cut into your entire pretty deep into all these veins, and then if you lived, they might cut. You might not have arms, and it's horrifying. So you don't want to slit your wrist. Most people that ever slit their wrists live. So that's the reality of slitting wrists. You can't do that. Hanged. Who the fuck wants to violent shaking and pulling on somebody's neck and all that? Who could go through that? That would suck. It'd feel so bad to try to kill your entire body if you lived. And if you died, like that, you can't do that. That's awful. I'm never gonna do that shit. and and pills doesn't work. It doesn't work unless there's some prescription medicine, but I've never been able to get prescription medicine that gets you high. I've never been able to get prescription medicine to get you high. I've never been able to get any prescription medicine in my entire life through any psychiatrist that ever made me high. So I guess they're good people, Danica and her dad. So they wanted me on the medicine, and I've never been able to get anything that made me high. um, when I went to a doctor, I've never been able to get it. And there's this stuff with it says barbitol at the end of it. There are various ones of that people kill themselves on. But if it doesn't kill you, then you could be in a wheelchair with your nerves destroyed, barely able to move. The rest of your life, you might look like this, like, hey guys, or some shit like that. I don't know. And so that would suck. And can't do that. Can't do anything that would hurt my body too much. I'd probably live as much as I worked so hard at working out with weights and being healthy. But I don't look that. I don't know what I look like now, a little bit older or whatever. But so I'd probably live through wherever it is. I can't jump off anything. I can't jump off any heights. I am scared of heights. What a horrifying way to be screaming all the way down. Holy shit, this sucks. Like, I hate heights. I don't want to jump off anything. It's fucking stupid. There's some guy out there that get the thought of jump or something, like some guy acts like jump. I don't know where I get the thought of him. Some guy that worked on a movie as a camera operator for me, I think. And jump, and then he bites his lip and thinks about being either, like, maybe he hasn't thought about it being my wife yet, but he might, and it's like, it's just it's like, I don't know who he is, but that shit makes me want to die too, that I'm trying to be with her and the kids. And the idea that if I even think about stuff on being with a woman besides her, then it makes it worse. And then I get the thought of her wanting to be with a man. So I have to try to not think about sex almost at all. And when I was in Texas, but I mess up pretty much every day. But I try to pretend for 2 years. I put a picture of my wife's face on something and pretend every time I got excited about being with a woman, it was my wife, and felt so bad inside with her ignoring most of my messages till I was almost dead many times. But like 3,000 times I chose intentionally with all my thoughts to kill myself, and 3,000 times, it was real suffering for remember how bad I got, like, around, if any of you know how I was the end of 2014 to about 2016. I wasn't that great. I was pretty good. I believed in God and Jesus, but I was borderline almost saying, like, do you really want to be Jesus-like at a political level? I was almost saying that. So I was pretty good. I always believed in God and Jesus, but I was pretty misled in my faith until I really read more about God and Jesus. So I always believed in God and Jesus. But I think that's why. But I think now it's just there's no reason for my suffering. I think there's no reason for my suffering, and I'm supposed to just go out there. But Texas was frightening to me, and it had me hospitalized for 2.5 weeks. But now I think I won't have to be hospitalized if I go back, but I don't know what to expect in reality. And I got angry the other day and imagined punching all these people in the air because I thought they were going after my son, who that's the first time I messed up like that in 2 years, I think. I imagined punching them all. And it's terrible, besides Danica and the kids. Because it was a mistake, because I thought they were gonna do to my son what they did to me at the end of 2014 with seeing hell and trying to make him into the champion for the bullshit redneck ass bullshit values, the redneck, racist, homophobic, red meat eating, wake up at an insane military hour, short haircut, redneck, giant ass truck, homophobe, hate gays, hate blacks, hate minority shit that they made me do with that bullshit ass shit, or they tricked me into, that I hate that shit. And I hate that shit. I hate that stupid ass shit. And I thought they were gonna do it to my son. And I'd had enough. They could fuck with me and shit. But that's when I got pissed and I acted like I was punching him in the air, but I didn't hurt him that bad. Sometimes I'd act like I was punching near him to scare him and stuff, and I didn't really hurt him that bad. So that was in my thoughts. And then after that, I got the thought, the people in Texas wanted me to I got the thought from someone there, I will sell his soul to the devil. And oh shit. And he was going to sell my soul to the devil, have me go to LA, try to be famous, try to get rid of my God and Jesus beliefs and shit. He was so pissed off and angry at me. And it was in my thoughts. It was a voice, right? It's probably crazy. So I don't even know if it's real. So but it was from her taking the kids there for so long that I started to hear voices because I was alone, and it felt wrong to be around other people. Like the next door neighbor had a son, and he showed up in my driveway. He was like 19 or 20 years old. He was like, hey, you want to start a band or something? And nice. And I was like, no, it felt wrong. I missed my son. It was like, why would I be around him? It was wrong. Why would I start a band and try to act cool instead of my son, who was 15 then, I think, and now he's 16. My son is 16. And so it felt wrong, and I was like, I could talk to him a little bit, not wrong in a gay way. I'm not gay, but I probably deserve it for thinking of a woman who, in some way like that. So it's like feeling like a stupid ass homophobia shit. I don't give a shit about it. It doesn't mean anything. What is it going to do? Make you fart and shit come out of your ass while you're walking? It's not going to do anything to anyone. Look up how unlikely it is to be raped, a man to be raped. It's usually impossible. It's so unlikely. But there's one person I've heard of who was molested as a child. This kid that we knew growing up. It's sad. His father did it to him, but it's the only person out of everyone I've ever met in my entire life who I knew of that it happened to. So it's not going to happen. His dad was already that way and raised him, kind of. He did it sometimes to him when he was growing up. But you don't have to be a homophobe. There's no reason for it. No one's going to get your butt. Even if it's doing some shit to your asshole, like you think in your mind, it's like you can feel it on your butt. Who cares? It's not going to do anything. They're not going to get your butt or whatever. It's stupid. And that all that worry went away, and I felt a love in my chest with no sex. I don't know why now it makes me think about sex, but there's no worry at all, and I felt this love of black people after I had stood up for the after I did the Jesus-like thing, so they'd be all okay. And none of them got hurt. So that was pretty good. And they still got away with having a black president. So that was pretty good. And I had gone out to California to push those liberal ideas, or like everyone holding hands in peace and kindness, no weapons, no guns, a utopian, beautiful world. That was the kind of thing that I was pushing out in California. I wanted to change the world. I didn't like how America was a little bit like the genocide of Indians. I was angry at the enslavement of black people. I was angry at, and I was pissed, and I wanted to change it in my own stupid ass liberal way that was a little bit kind of racist as a joke. You know how liberals were. They could have been but I was never racist against black. I was never racist against black people when it came down to it. I could never do anything to hurt a black person. But I would joke with people and always be kind to them at the end of the joke. So I wasn't that bad. I was always pretty good. I was never one of those mean racist people. I was never racist. But I don't know what other people do. And so I didn't like it if they're too racist. I was like, I didn't understand why they're mean. When I was young, I couldn't understand how they could be so mean. Like they would say things and I just didn't get it and thought it was stupid and wrong, but I didn't know how bad it was. It was like, how could they say that? Like there's this kid in junior high who said he was so angry at his teacher, he imagined raping her and beating her up and raping her. And I was like, what? I didn't understand what that was. I was so kind and innocent. I didn't understand what that kind of sin was, But in hell, there's that stuff way, way worse. And it's the sexual stuff, and it's bad. And so it's useless. You never want to do it. You never ever want to do it because there's nothing good about it. You don't get to have any enjoyment. The devil is using those people, for that. But you get to have enjoyment. Like my son gets to have enjoyment at good things and being kind. But that shit is sinful. And those people, if they keep that up, end up in hell. I can't imagine a kid saying things like that so young. I was very kind and very good when I was young. But I did steal stuff one time and I got in trouble and it made me worry about my looks. And I was like, hi, dudes, and could barely walk and have my hair in front of my face. And it looked really ugly after stealing crap. I thought it looked ugly. And then I went to LA and got my braces taken off and felt really good. And so I suffered for about 2 years for that. And or a year or two when I was a kid, and that felt like so long back then. But it's been 5.5 years of this, and so this has been the most difficult thing I've ever done. But I can't. I don't know how I'm gonna rent out this house or get enough money to go to Texas. I don't know what I'm gonna do. I don't know what I'm gonna do because I don't want to sell this house. This is where I found peace away from people, and I wasn't having to but I'm not planning to kill myself. I'll never kill myself. There's no way I can do it. If you breathe in, okay, if you breathe in charcoal, that's one way that I'd gotten a big tub of, this is depressed because she took the kids away from me for 5.5 years and made it like jumping through hoops or something to be able to even get there to finally be a father. And still she's saying if she gets angry at one little thing, she might say, you got to get out of here or something. And I didn't know what to do. So it was awful. It was awful. But I did get to see him for 5 days when I went there this last time a few months ago. And that was amazing. I get to go bowling with him and do fun stuff. And it was good. It was actually really good. But I had to be there for 6 weeks to even get to see him for 5 days. And it was kind of expensive, but not that bad. There might be some way I can stay a month for $1,400 a month. And it wouldn't be that bad. So maybe I can go for a month. But I was staying, so I don't know. I can't stay at a campsite. I don't know how I'd stay in a campsite in a car. I don't know if I can do that. Sleeping in a car at a campsite to be able to afford going there. So it's just been not that good feeling being alive. So, but I know now what it is. It's a tremendous amount of God's work. It's exhausted me. It's made me give up 3,000 times that I just didn't know how to make it work, so I didn't want to live anymore. But God kept me living and kept me safe from killing myself somehow, and made it as if I was crazy. He had to go to a hospital because he was crazy. So, but then one time, but I finally was able. Well, never mind. I was able to quit all my medicine for 2 months, and I had no anxiety. I had no anxiety. I had no depression. I heard no voices. I had no voices when I was awake walking around. If I was just waking up in the morning or just going to sleep, sometimes I heard things like as I was sleeping, I'd fall asleep. And when I wake up and start walking around, I didn't hear anything all day. I heard no voices, had no anxiety, no depression for like 2 months. And I quit all my medicine and quit caffeine and felt amazing for 2 months. And I looked younger. I looked about 28 years old. This was in January of 2021. This is in January of 2021. I grew long, kind of blonde hair. You can see back then in videos I did. I played music. Started playing music more. But I was lustful. That was the problem. Farted, man. Farted. Remember Chris Hofer farted? I remember Chris Hofer farted. Nope. Not making fun of anybody. But so then, and now I'm back to my kind liberal self. I'm mostly vegan. I have some vegetarian food. Don't tell my parents. Don't tell her parents or her mom, because I was a mean vegan liberal. A really mean liberal vegan was like, fuck you, man. I don't care about. No, I wasn't that bad. I was a little bit mean. I was always pretty good. I was never that bad. But I said one mean thing one time to about meat eaters, and I was pretty pushy. I thought, I was, so they made me eat meat. It sucked. I don't like eating it usually, but I'll eat it now, because I was wrong about how mean I was about being a vegan, an ethical vegan, so I thought they wouldn't hurt any animals. But that's how it'll be in heaven. We'll be vegans. That's reality. And we may eat milk from animals. We may eat milk from animals and cheese and dairy, but we're not going to eat meat anymore because there'll be no sacrifice in heaven. There'll be no Old Testament sacrifice in heaven. There'll be no killing of any animals. None of the animals will die in heaven. The ones who make it there will live forever in heaven, and that's how it'll really be in heaven. But because there's inherent sin on the earth and there's war and stuff like that, it's forgiven when people are made to go to war and have to shoot at people or go to war. In the Old Testament, that's okay, but we're judged on how Jesus-like we are on Judgment Day. We're really judged on how Jesus-like we are on Judgment Day. But in heaven, there'll be a lion who never hurts anyone, who will talk. And this is in the Bible, or a lion, I don't know if it'll talk, but it'll be in heaven and friends with a chipmunk, and they'll get along, and no one will kill anyone or hurt anyone ever again. And that's how heaven really is. But it's not here. This is earth. So this is actual earth. And people like eating meat. And it's okay in the Old Testament. It says, we have dominion on the animals or whatever. We have dominion over the animals. I don't want my life to be over. And, So it's okay. God says in the Bible we can eat meat, but that's the Old Testament. And in heaven, I just happen to be a vegan or vegetarian. I didn't want to hurt any animals. I looked at the animals before I was raised on God and Jesus. I didn't know anyone who was a vegan or vegetarian growing up that I knew of. I didn't know if anyone else ate that way. But I stopped eating beef. This is just how I happen to be, but or how I like to eat. But it was so terrifying. I couldn't tell anyone. Usually don't tell anyone to get frightened into saying, okay, I'll eat your meat. Just don't do it to me again. It was pretty scary what happened to me. And they're not gonna do that again. But they really tricked me. They really tricked me, and they can be pissed. And so you don't be mean to them. If they have different beliefs or whatever, they can eat meat or whatever. Just don't be angry at them. It doesn't make them a mean person, because I know for a fact in the Bible, Old Testament says it's okay to eat meat. We have dominion on the animals. Some of those animals are mean as shit and stupid as shit too. So you might. I know. But I like cows. I like cows. I think they're nice. I like cows. I kind of like pigs, but I like little pigs. Little pigs are cute. They don't hurt anybody. Like there's little pigs, and I wouldn't want to hurt a chicken or animals like that. But when I was growing up, I'd mostly eat vegetarian, and I'd have some chicken, and turkey. And then when I met Danica, we just went. It was amazing. I finally got to stop eating all meat, and I became a vegan. And we were both vegan. And then when we moved back to Roanoke, it was a little harder. Something happened. I don't know what it was, but we started eating dairy. So we ate dairy together and vegan. And then I don't know why I'm doing this to my mouth. It had I had talked so long that had stuff on. It's so weird. It's a new toilet paper, so hopefully it's not gross. I don't know. But so so you know, I'm really sorry for being a stupid ass mean person. I hope my friends here understand that I worked relentlessly at the film, videos, and music. You know, I had to go through stuff worrying about every inch of my body not looking good. I was skinny, weak, could barely hobble around campus, had hair in my eyes, braces, stuff on my face that didn't look as good. Um, and I was like really down feeling about myself. And it felt so much work in this God's work in the schools. It felt so much God's work in all those schools I had to go to. It was like unrest a little bit. And so God let me go to California and try to be famous, and that's where God brought me together as one flesh with my wife. And God had me planned to go to California. There's nothing bad about it. Besides, in 2003 or 4 or 5 or 2004, here and there, I was a little bit. I got so worried I'd die with the panic attacks and stuff, and I thought I was having I was gonna die of a heart attack, and I didn't know what else to do, and I just started being mean, intentionally mean, and it was pretty stupid. It was pretty stupid. I was a little bit intentionally mean, and then I started being a little bit mean about vegan too, because I was already a vegan, but I was nice before that. And that was the only time. That was the first time I had done that kind of sin. My friends, some of them when they were younger, were more sinful, and I didn't understand because I didn't. I probably didn't sin as bad, other than that crap that I stole, and that made me look even worse than I was already worried about my looks. But I probably looked good enough anyway. And so God took my wife and kids away from me eventually for the sin that I did that time in 2004, and the sin that I did. I have to pee right now. I don't even know what I look like. So God took my wife and kids to Texas, and I think, and God's everywhere. God's everywhere. God's omniscient. He's everywhere at all times. He knows everything. He knows everything about the past, present, and future. But see, there's no buts about it. God is everywhere. All the love we know is from God. We're supposed to love God the most. All the love we know is from God. And we love people, and they're important. And God wants us to be kind to others. That's how we get into heaven, is by being kind to those people, by being at one flesh with your wife, or be, uh, being kind to your children, or your children honoring their parents, and me being a good parent to them. When I'm able to be a good parent, like today, I wrote them a bunch of times, just today, and every day for it's been but I've gone to Texas 9 or 10 times. I've gone to Texas 7 or 8 times that I made it there, and 2 other times that I went 1,000 miles, like more than 1,000 miles, and had to turn back, or was hospitalized one time. I was hospitalized another time for a week. That was that second time that I quit my medicine, and was very Jesus-like. It was very Jesus-like in 2017 across the entire country. It was good, really good. Jesus-like is good. See, that's the difference in these fucking killers, people who think they think they're doing it for God. They don't get it. They're stuck in the Old Testament too much, where there's and some of them may get into heaven, but they're bad. They're all bad. It just we have to, for what we should know and for what I do and know, they're all bad, and I'll never hurt anyone. I'll never, unless it's in a small way. If I messed up or something, had to protect somebody, I'm never going to kill anyone. I know I'll never kill anyone. I know that because it's too scary to get the Old Testament right, and I just don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. It's bad. We're judged on Judgment Day how Jesus like we are, and Jesus is about kindness to others, and you know. But I mess up too with sin sometimes, and I would never want to hurt anyone in real life. I don't like that real life. Even as mean as I've ever fucking been, I wouldn't want, even the worst meanness I've ever been, I wouldn't want to actually do a physical altercation or break the law. But that's stupid crap. But that's wrong. Then I had to relearn. I had to, with Jesus, I had to be willing to be taken to jail, willing to be arrested for God and Jesus, for Jesus to do what was right, willing to be taken to a hospital or any of those things I was afraid of, and so I did my best to follow God and Jesus, and I'm still doing my best. You don't stop. You didn't say I did my best. That's it. You're dead. No, I'm not supposed to go to heaven yet. But I have to really pee, but I don't do anything mean. I have to really pee. I was deciding if I should pee or keep talking, but so I don't know, and I have to pee. I'll be right back. I have to pee. This is a good time to take it easy or chat or something. I gotta pee. I'll be right back. I guess. I don't know what that means. It's not a horror movie. It's not a horror movie. Because guess what? That shit ain't real. No, I don't know. I don't know. Okay. Sorry, I gotta brush my teeth. But my dad's really good. He's he's a pretty good guy. He's a man. He's a good guy. He's a man. He's good. You know, he never really did anything bad to me. He gave me a work ethic since I was like 12 years old. So ever since about I was 12 or 13, a kind of work ethic to have more than other people have. And I was like constantly doing stuff. And the other kids got to do some work for a while, and then they took it easy and rest, and they might take a pencil or something and like bounce it on something. And I was like constantly doing God's work. And so um, but then he helped me with money till I was like 37, 37 or something like that. And then it was like he was pissed. The entire country was pissed that Obama had been in office. That was a big thing. The entire country was pissed that Obama got to be in office. More and more liberal. Then they were being kind of gays too, and Russia was pissed. And they were like, "How could you do that? We beat because they beat up gays. They beat up gays there. It's like, or they used to, and a few years ago, and so they could have turned this country into who knows what. So people were worried, and I was supposed to like become more Republican somehow. I was like 37. Yeah, I was 37 or 36, 36 or 37. But it was like September or October of 2014, and I was like really mean, and I didn't know really what I was doing. But I found Jesus before it's too late, and before any of the things got set in motion in the country. It was like, oh, it was just thoughts, wasn't reality, and Jesus saved the day, and everything was okay. Nobody got hurt, and in our family we did kind of big political things, but or big military things, kind of, and not that big military things. But my dad was a lieutenant colonel in the army, and he worked hard. He worked like two jobs usually, and was good. And so we were raised on God and Jesus. We didn't have as much money when we were growing up, but we kind of had money. And then he never really got that rich. He may not even be rich, but he worked hard. And so he's still alive now, and he worked hard, and so I got my work ethic from him. But it wasn't his fault that I did that crazy ass stuff. It was also because I may be divorced, or I don't know, because I read in the Bible when people get divorced, sometimes a violent thing can happen. A very violent thing can happen, along with the sin of tearing apart the flesh that God brought together. God brought together is really, really special. Never break up. I know, there are people like you. If you're watching, like some of my friends and people are supposed to be married, I can tell, and just you're not supposed to break that up. But sometimes God breaks up those things, but very unlikely, very unlikely. You're supposed to stay together. But sometimes, if it was like men and humans tried to tear apart two people that were one flesh, all these bad things can happen because God did that. And then it can be like a violent thing. So this really violent thing happened at the end of not violent, but in violent thoughts. But it's okay again. It's okay again. I've been constantly thinking about. I've been talking to Danica every day, or writing her emails every day, or calling her every day, and stuff like that. So, so I think we're still together. So I don't even know. I don't even know. But it's bad if you're not supposed to get a divorce and you get a divorce. It's not worth it. It's not worth it because you can't. Can you imagine like having a little money for a few years, 30 years, whatever? We're gonna get old and die anyway. It's not gonna be. It's not gonna be that long of a life. 100 years or 80 years or 62 years or 58 years. You know, compare it whenever God wants us to go, however long we live. It's up to God, but we can try to live long. But it's up to God. But it may be wrong to try to live too long. So our next life is very real. Is very real, and it's forever. It's not just 1,000 years. It's it's not just 1,000,000 years or 1 billion years. It's literally forever. So compare that to a life that's 60 years old or something that we have for our entire life, or 100 years, or uh, however long we live, 40 years, 38 years, or some people, it doesn't matter that much. It's when God takes us, this is real. It's really real. So God and Jesus are really real. I'd like to cry at it and stuff right now, but I just don't feel like I mean, I don't know if it's appropriate for me or not. I don't know, because I know this stuff already. But that was really beautiful that I was saying that, and you understood. I got the feeling that somebody watching it really understood. So that's amazing. And sometimes I don't know if I deserve to feel that good or not, because I've been talking about this Jesus stuff the entire time, and it happened to be it feel really good right now. Like maybe like somebody watching really understood what it's about, and so that's really good. That's good for you, and for me, I don't know. I was like afraid to feel really good about it too, all the way. But I felt like I didn't deserve it. I felt like I didn't deserve it. But for whoever's watching, that's something really beautiful, I think. So, and I was like afraid to, so I didn't deserve to feel that good about it or something. And it's too much like me in front of camera, acting cool in front of camera. Maybe it has something to do with you're not supposed to be in front of camera, because some people aren't supposed to show themselves and brag about their good acts and stuff like that. And so I might be, sometimes I'm supposed to be like act like I'm not supposed to get as many views or something like that sometimes. But I think maybe that'll happen for me one day, but I don't know. I don't really care. I don't really know, but I know. Of course I care, because I don't. If I don't, I'd probably really be depressed. I'd probably really be depressed if this finally doesn't pay my, not just this, but like my films, my editing, filming, setting up cameras and doing a really good job and stuff. This is just me talking in a video, maybe really special, but this is one video, and so if I don't make a living at it, I don't know what I'll do. I don't know what I'll do. That's been a problem too for me. That's really been a problem for me. It's really been a problem for me a little bit, but not really. But I think somehow I'll be able to. Something will happen with um, finally getting Danica and the kids back in the town, maybe, or here, or I get to fucking die, or I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. And or I can't be with her again, and we're already divorced, or the kids get to be here, or uh, I don't know what's gonna happen. But I think I'm supposed to hang on to that real estate stuff that I did with my parents, because I was raised in real estate offices in the early '80s when I was a little boy, and I was around that stuff for so long. So I'm pretty good at it, but it's it's not that fun for me. It hasn't been, but maybe it can be because I know it so well, and then maybe it'll be like different and all of a sudden really good. I don't know. But so far, it's been like my dad's money, having to do what he says, or do a bunch of the work all myself by hand. The past 7 years now, it's been doing a bunch of it myself, but it's tons of money. I got really good money for it, like more money than like if some people know me, my friends and stuff. I'm one of the ones who kind of has more money than most of them, but you can't. But I wasn't supposed to know how much money it is, but I kept looking up net worth and stuff. So I may have, like with Danica and I, we may have some money, but that could disappear. God could take it right away. So we don't know. It's up to God. And the only reason why I have this, but we do God's work, and we do God's work, and He might want us to work at things that make money. And so I worked at his house, but I can't. It's like the work that I had to do. I don't know. Maybe it can be easier in the future one day. next time I have to do it, it won't be as bad. I worked on my house 2 days ago, and it was so hard to do. It was so hard to do. I fixed a plumbing leak myself. I fixed a plumbing leak. I did it right. I dried the pipe. I found the little rubber seal thing, and I did it myself. And I fixed it. I didn't have to spend any money on it. But bef- I don't know what was wrong. I almost gave up as I was doing it, and then I fixed it. But I think if I was happier, like if something changed about the same environment for 5.5 years, like if something, if like all of a sudden, like there's somebody here who loved me like a woman. No, I've been alone for it has sucked. It kind of personally, but it's okay. But I've done God's work. But this is not how I want to feel until I die. I don't want to be the little. I don't want to be the nerd, the little nerd who's or physically big, but you know who's like never gets to have sex. The the best, the closest thing, like, thinks about a woman on the being with a woman by himself, and it just it's just not the it, and that's even bad, like that's even supposed to be too bad. So it's like I don't even know what to do. In Texas, when I was there for 6 weeks, I did not do any sexual things touching. I didn't touch myself in that way at all for 6 weeks. For 6 weeks. And I didn't even think of sex. See, that's where it's you have to really be godly and good. Like if a thought tries to enter your mind of a very sexual thing, it could be from some sin that happened a long time ago from someone else, not really somebody else, but it could be a demon. It could be a demon, and you gotta. But there's no demons. There's no demons. See, that's the thing. Growing up, we are never afraid of demons, never afraid of hell, never afraid of the devil. It was like it wasn't even real. Like even in our church, I wasn't aware of what it was, and it was never a problem. It never got that bad in our house to where there's ever like a demon or shit like that. And so forget that shit. That's there's don't even worry about that. But it could be this is a small sin, but it can ruin everything. It's just one little sin. Like I had been I hadn't even thought of sex in those 6 weeks that I was in Texas, and I think a little bit longer when I got here, but I don't know how long I went when I was back at my place that I felt comfortable. But it took like 2 months to really calm down from that. But when I was there in Texas, um, wherever it is probably, I'm guessing it's like somewhere out there. But so so I didn't think of sex for 6 weeks, but sometimes I get the thought of it really strong from somewhere, and it would be like a really sexual thought, and it almost ruined this really good work that I was doing. Sometimes, like there are these bars that Danica had, and it was for her and the kids, and I wasn't supposed to think of her in a sexual way at all the entire time I was there. It just wasn't appropriate, and I was supposed to do God's work and be kind to her wherever she is, um, uh, and be kind to her. But I wasn't, for what the sin we had done with lust and stuff. I wasn't supposed to even get too close to her, so in that way at all. And I've had a feeling from God about that. But I was in my hotel room when I was back from Danica's house, and she gave me these bars that were like something about them had something to do with this other person, maybe, who some sin that showed up from somewhere, some other woman trying to look sexy. And I don't know what it was, or I don't know why, but I looked at these bars that she got that were like, I don't want to say what kind it was. I don't want to say what kind it was, but I looked at them and just got one thought of like, wow, that's awesome. And I thought about sex for a moment, and it came on very strong, and it like almost ruined the bars. And then somehow the kids got the bars, and I was afraid they ate those bars. And it was so creepy that if my son ate those bars after I thought that, and it could have like messed up so much stuff. And it was just one little thought of sex. And that's how godly and Jesus like and good I had to be when I was in Texas the entire time for 6 weeks. And there's this other time that made us all sick. It was scary as shit. It was scary. It was from some bad sin I did when we were younger. It had something to do with venom, and it was pretty bad. But I don't know how that happened. It was like I was in this that mental place, and out of nowhere, I was in that mental place. But there's this woman, a young woman who's like 26 or 23, and she had a little beard, a little bit, but she was like, if she got if she had waxed it off or permanently removed it so it's not there anymore or something, but she had like a little bit of black hair, but she had a cute little pug nose. Not she wasn't cute. I would say my wife is cute, but the way those people have this little pug nose, and she looked like could have been a model if she removed that hair. She had light dark hair on her face, like almost like it was a little creepy, and I imagine she must have had more down there, but whether or not she shaved it or what, and it didn't bother her that much because she was so good looking, and she just thought, she wasn't even worried about it. But I had to not look at her in that way, and she had like a smock on that you could almost see that was opened, and there were women walking around, and I had to like not think about them the entire time and go or something like that when I got near them or something. But I did, and it was, and I never thought of any of them in a sexual way. But this one time, I didn't even know she was there, but I was standing here, and or I knew, but I didn't think of her in a sexual way ever. Any of those people, and something happened with there are all these different people. There are all these different people. There are all these different people in that place, and they're really unique. And I wrote down in a book what they're like. I have a book somewhere that's here that I wrote down what they're like. A bunch of the different people I met. I had to talk to all these different people. There's this one guy who'd brag and pretend he was a billionaire and lost all his money, and he was just crazy. And they said, she's a billionaire too. Yep, she's a billionaire and billionaire. And but he wasn't that crazy. He was, I don't know what was wrong. He was on heroin. He was on heroin. And he was living on the streets. But he said he owned a house and his house burned down or something, or I don't know. Some guy in there, and I made pretty good friends with him. He was okay, but I realized I was terrified when at first he kept talking about billionaires and how his son had billions of dollars and his daughter was a porn star who made a million or had $1 million and all this shit. And I was like so scared of it. And I called Danica and I said, please don't do the famous stuff anymore. It's terrifying. And then I found out, wait a second, he's just crazy and was living behind a church, sleeping on the ground, and he had a gun. And then he said in the Old Testament he had shot somebody or something that killed his wife. And you can't ever do that. That's really bad because we're judged on Judgment Day on how Jesus like we are. It's so bad, the things that, and I can't understand how those people hurt people. But in our family, we never do that, and so that's why I don't want any weapons around us and stuff, and I don't want us to go to war or stuff like that. It's bad. And so that guy was like he went to some war, but I don't know. And I think he was lying about all of it or some of it or some of it and most of it. So, but there's this other weird thing that happened, and there was very godly and Jesus like. I was preaching the gospel to everyone I could talk to, trying to talk to them and help them be kind. People being kind to them, asking if they believed in God and Jesus, getting this, and they said yes, I do. And I said yes, it's a miracle, and and so I was really kind, but that gun shit scared me. and there's somebody out there who's supposed to get shot by a gun, but I don't know who it is, and I know it's not me, so I'm not supposed to do that. I don't know why, but somebody's supposed to be shot by a gun, and that was like something that I wasn't supposed to accept, and I didn't, but somebody else out there may supposed to, and that stuff I don't even understand. I'm so kind and good. I get along with the police. You know, I get along with the police, but I don't break the law. But if they're, if I had to get shot, I guess I would. But I don't see why I would ever do that. I've like lived in the first world and stuff, but I did have to go to L.A. in one of the worst ghettos there is on earth. That I don't like going to downtown L.A. And somehow I was supposed to for God and Jesus, and I got stuck in Skid Row. I got stuck in Skid Row, one of the worst neighborhoods, and I couldn't find where my car was, and I was carrying heavy bags that had like my $2,000 laptop, and it had like $4,000 cash in it that I went there to move to LA. I was walking around, and it was so scary, and it was so heavy, and I couldn't find my car, and I kept having to walk around. And the cab, I couldn't get a cab, and my phone was running out of batteries. I didn't know how to get the Uber to meet me there, or a cab to meet me there, or something like that. A car, I couldn't get the car to actually show up and meet me, and then I think somehow I made it, but I walked around for hours in Skid Row, and I didn't even know it was Skid Row until I left and found it, and somehow I saw it on. Somehow I realized when I looked on a map, I had to rent a car and drive around myself, because the taxi cab, when I finally got a cab driver, he wouldn't keep driving me around to look for my car. He said, "Where are we going? Where are we going? Where?" And then he'd drive way down, and then he didn't want me to talk. He didn't like me telling him directions. And then and then he said and then he said and then he said and then he went way down because he didn't want to have to think about it. He wanted to just drive finally and not think about the direction. So he drove way far out of the way and said, "Can we turn around the other way?" And he said, he didn't say anything, and then he just kept driving, and then he turned around though, and then he went back the other way, and we checked all the streets. I couldn't find where the car was that I could get to, but then he got tired of it, and he made me get out of the car, and then I had to give him like $100, and then or $80 or $60 or something, $80 or $100 or something like that. And then this other lady picked me up, and she talked like this or something, or talked like, I don't know what she talked like, and then and then I tried to get her to drive around, but she was Spanish or something, and she said, "Look this," and she tried to, she tried. Like the sun was out, and they had like drinks and stuff on the road, and it was in the fashion industry with these clothes, and I was like, "This." Or something. It was totally different from where I had parked, and it was like nowhere near where the car was and stuff. And she would, and I had to, I don't know, and so she drove me around a little bit, and I had to give her like $100, and or $80, and then I rented a car, and it was only $80. I rented an entire rental car. By some miracle, I got to some place where they had a rental car, and got a rental car, and then I drove around myself, kept driving around, and I had my stuff in the car. I was like, finally, I don't have to carry those heavy bags all around that dangerous place or whatever it was, Skid Row. Skid Row. It's one of the most well-known bad neighborhoods. They have poor people, drug deals, prostitutes doing gay acts on the street. This woman, this poor homeless woman, or so, I don't know. This lady went like this, very disgusting. And it was weird to see that they were still kind of young, that people really did that stuff, and I had to walk around in that filth on the side of the road. The people peed right there on the side of the road, and I had to walk around with $3,000, my $2,000 laptop, or $4,000, however much cash I had, in the most dangerous. I don't like going into those places. I don't like going there at all. It's God's work. It's God's work. You know, I got to the when I was with Danica, we stopped going in any dangerous neighborhoods. You know, we didn't like going into those neighborhoods and didn't have to, but I had to be around that. So then I finally got in the rental car and put my stuff in the car and locked the doors, which I had to do. And then I drove around, and by some miracle, I found where the car was. I took pictures. I was somehow able to charge my phone, and took pictures. I took pictures of the road, the street signs, which road it was on, the businesses next door to it, and so I knew where it was, and I knew where it was, and then I had to drive back to the rental car place, somehow get to my car, and it was maybe nighttime in Skid Row, or just about nighttime, and then I had to go all the way back to Hollywood or something in some hotel, which is better neighborhood, but still not the best at night. You know, not you don't really bring a family there at night, and then I had to wake up the next morning and drive all the way back down to that same place to return the rental car, or something about the rental car. I don't know how I had to do it. I had to find parking spaces. It was so much relentless effort just going to LA, and you know, if I move there, if I have to move there, I don't know what I'm gonna do, but I may not want a car because I can just pay Ubers and just stay out of downtown LA if you go there. Pretty much, there's some good areas that are trendy, and I was like, what are they doing here? What are they doing so close to these really bad neighborhoods? You know, why would they think it's anything cool about it? It's stupid. I don't like it. I wouldn't want to live in downtown LA with that kind of scary crap going on. You know, and I never really liked going back to downtown LA because I used to live in another part of downtown LA when I was kind of poor and a young student. But you know, my parents probably had money and invested in things that were in my name. I didn't even know a little bit of money. I don't know how much, you know, but I was getting by on like $700 a month, $700 a month or something like that.